get started.
What's that?
Let's go, boys.
No, I was just going to say we'll get started, mate. We'll get started. So this week I wanted to talk about City and the rest of kind of the top 6 clubs, because Pep has just signed a new tier contract at City. And there's been loads of interest and opinions on it, to be fair. I don't know if you guys have seen it on Sky Sports News and stuff, or on YouTube, other people talking about it. But there's been some interesting points of view on Pep. And I always grew up, well, I think we always grew up watching Pep at Barcelona, where that team is like someone that was absolutely incredible. And then obviously went on to Bayern Munich and did really well. And then has come and had a centurion season at City. But I feel like in the last year or two, the perception on him's changed a little bit. And that got me thinking about what are the other kind of top clubs in England doing, and trying to see where everyone's heading. And then also chat about like Gerrard at Rangers, because it looks like Scotty might be finishing 10 in a row. We don't want to get too excited about it, mate, but he could be. So the 3 things I thought of that I kind of measure a coach at is their coaching. How do they improve their players? Their recruitment. Who do they buy? Who do they sell? Does it fit into their kind of club philosophy and manager philosophy? And then also how they kind of handle like big moments in the career, whether it be ups to keep going on, like Fergie did it year after year, all the time to keep going, or moments where a big bad thing happens to them and they carry on their form and their team are able to grind out results. And I think that the team that is probably the kind of poster team for this right now, and I don't really want to speak about them too much, but we can refer back to them, is obviously Liverpool. I mean, the thought process for this episode was Moneyball, because you come in and you can see how Liverpool, on the coaching point of view, you've got a world-class coaching that's clearly improved a load of players. The recruitment has been, if not perfect, not far off it. And I think right now with the injury of Van Dijk and other main players, you're seeing how the squad and the team is handling big moments. So, Greg, what do you look at in terms of a team and a manager, in terms of what you think is going well for them? Like, what do you term as success for them, or looking like they're going to get success?
I mean, as you say, if you take City, for example, Guardiola obviously came in the first season, didn't do very well. Everyone was kind of questioning if he's cut out for England, which is a load of bollocks, to be honest, because he's obviously one of the best managers around at the moment. Of course, he's cut out for England, but that's just kind of English media love to kind of portray that of it's more difficult to do it in England. But the one thing I would say is obviously more. I would say England's more competitive in terms of there's a top 6, top 7 in England compared to there's only realistically 2 or 3 teams in Spain that can actually win the league. There's only, let's be honest, there's probably only 1 team in Italy, because I think Juventus are 9 in a row or something as well. So I think Guardiola, in terms of actually coming in, obviously it was always going to be a transition period, and he's obviously, as you say, had 100 points in one season, done very, very well. The one thing I'd say for Guardiola is he's been brought in to win the Champions League, which he's not done yet. So surely that has meant that he is, in terms of City, he is not a success at City yet, because they've literally paid all that money for him, brought him in for one thing, signed a new deal for one reason, to win the Champions League, and he's still not done it. So I would say that he is not a success yet. On the other hand, as you say, to relate back to Liverpool and Klopp's probably brought in for one thing, to win the league. So I'd say that Klopp is a success at Liverpool, where Guardiola's maybe not actually there yet with City in terms of achieving the big goals that the club set out to achieve when that would have been their first thing on the checklist, win the Champions League.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Let's start with Pep and City, and we'll go through the rest of the teams, because that is a bang on point. City were winning the league and doing really well before Pep came in. I mean, Mancini won the league with them, Pellegrini won the league with them. So like you say, Greg, not that it's not difficult to do, and he had his centurion season with 100 points, and there was 2 to 3 years where City were incredible. Let's not get that wrong. But Pep spent, in his time that he's been at City, 832 million. I mean, if you
how many years is that?
He came in, I think, 16, 17. or maybe 15, 16 around that time. So it's been
It's a lot
about
of
four.
money.
It's been about 4 or 5 years, about the same time as Klopp. So that's a lot of money. And when I was looking today, I mean, Matthew, who would you say right now in City's team are their top kind of players? Who would you say if they have a fully fit team? Who are their top players? Top 3, 4 players.
Guerrero,
De Bruyne.
Sterling,
Ooh.
Fernandinho.
And De Bruyne.
Got to be Kevin De Bruyne.
Sorry, and then Kevin De Bruyne, yeah.
I mean, I think most folk could agree with that. And if you think about it, I mean, Pep didn't sign any of those players. He didn't sign De Bruyne. He didn't sign Aguero. He didn't sign Fernandinho, and he didn't sign Sterling. He didn't sign any of them. Now, I would think Scotty. Would you say that? I would say that he's improved those players. I don't think he's not improved those players, but he didn't sign them.
No,
Probably can get the
100%.
top.
Yeah.
No. I mean,
The players he has signed, he's signed a lot of defenders. I don't know if you got the stats for that on your sheet. But
he has signed a lot of defenders.
A lot of money and a lot of defenders, and they're still pretty dodgy at the back.
Yeah.
This year especially, and last year, but
I mean, even with like the signing of Ruben Dias, and I'll be honest, this might be controversial. I don't know what you guys think. I think Laporte is a really, really, really good centre back. I'm not saying he's not, but everyone when they signed him made this big deal like he was the next company. And to be honest, City have been pretty terrible at the back, and I know that's not just down to just the back four, that's a team thing. But Laporte to me doesn't give out the same aura as other centre backs do. I mean, I'm not when he's in the team, I'm thinking it's going to be harder, but I'm not massively worried about it.
was Laporte not a panic buy in January as well? I'm sure you're watching that documentary. They bought him. They weren't on his plans, and all of a sudden they needed to buy a centre half. Went and paid over the money for him as well.
I'm not sure, to be fair about that, but like the one thing I would say, if you look at like defense, obviously like a good defense tends to be very like consistent in terms of how many games they play together and like creating partnerships. I generally can't remember Laporte stringing 10 games together.
He has had a couple injuries, to be fair, hasn't
Yeah, which again kind of goes on to one of the other points I talked about, which comes into your recruitment. I mean, sometimes you just get unlucky, Matthew, but in terms of what Greg just said, I'll add someone else to the list. 50 million for Benjamin Mendy. I mean,
yeah.
50
million for Benjamin Mendy. Again, good player.
right now.
Good player, but
He was class when he first signed.
But would we say, I mean, Matthew, would you say that's been a success of a signing?
Nah, no chance.
Not, right? It's not been a success of a signing.
I think when you ask the question of like what like a good coach, a good manager is, I think he needs to get the best. I think to me is someone that needs to get the best out of everyone. Obviously, Fergie was the best at that. If you look at the teams he had, like Darren Fletcher, Park Ji-sung and that, he made them look absolutely class. And I just think I don't know. Man City's gone stale right now for me. Like I have no idea what's going on there. But Pep doesn't really seem to be getting like the best out of everyone. And really, even if you look at like him kind of having like not really bang average players, but not like your superstars and like bringing them through and making them amazing. Foden's kind of the only one he's done that with, and Foden's some player by the way, but he doesn't really seem to do that for me.
I think on City, for recruitment point of view, they've lost David Silva and they've lost a fully fit Aguero, which for me, I think they were two of the best players in the last 3-4 years for them. Like Aguero's scoring loads of goals and Silva's unbelievable, and they've not replaced them. And now Kevin De Bruyne's not playing as well as what he can. That's totally dropped that team.
Well,
Jesus do it.
He's not Aguero, is he?
Nah, I wouldn't say. This is the first time in Pep's career where he's stayed around long enough, and like you said earlier, Greg, about Spain and Germany. I mean, with no disrespect, if you're managing Barcelona and Bayern Munich, you're going to be winning a few titles. This is the first time in his career has A, had more people challenging him, and B, has kind of stayed to a long enough point where he has to start like quote unquote rebuilding it. Like you just said, Scott, Aguero's class still, but he's getting older. He gets injured a lot more. Vincent Kompany is gone. Who's the other one you said?
David Silva.
And David Silva's gone. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not easy to replace those at all.
Yeah.
But he's never had this in his career. And not only that, add that alongside the competition he's got in Klopp at Liverpool, world-class coach. He's got Jose Mourinho at Tottenham. world-class coach. And then you've also got Man United, who can spend as much money as they want. He might not be able to attract the player, but can spend it. And Chelsea too. I mean, he's got competition there at a time where he has to do something he's never done.
And it's a difficult job for him, that they want him to win the Champions League, but he also still needs to be competitive in England as well, which is hard to do both.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think they've got it in them to win the Champions League.
Well,
I think they missed a chance a couple of years ago. You know, when the year that Liverpool beat Tottenham in the Champions League final.
Yeah,
I think if City got through Tottenham, they would have got through Ajax, and I think they would have beat Liverpool in the final, and they were a better team.
I mean, he's been knocked out in the Champions League. He got knocked out. I would even say last season was probably their best chance to win it. I mean, he got knocked out by Lyon last season, where in a game where he rested a load of players, it was almost as if to be like, we're through anyway, I'm going to keep them for the final. And you can't be doing that in the Champions League. And he also, again, no disrespect, they ended up getting to the final that year. But I mean, they got beat by a Spurs team under Pochettino who are good, but City should be beating them over two legs.
Yeah, they were poor at the back again. They weren't. They not finished 4-3 at the end.
It was a mental game, but and he the experiment stuff he did with Lyon. I think I could be wrong with this. Pretty sure the other team he's been knocked out by is Monaco. I mean, Lyon, Tottenham, and Monaco. City, with the money they have, we just said they spent 800+ million. With the money they have, with the manager they have, they shouldn't be getting knocked out by those teams.
They got knocked out by Liverpool one year as well.
Mm-hmm. And Liverpool, but and not
Liverpool battered them, man.
Not the all-conquering Liverpool that you've seen in the last year or two that are incredible. Like a team that was on the up, but not the same Liverpool at all.
I think it's really difficult just because you're trying to compare and talk about Pep at Barca when, let's be honest, that team is absolutely ridiculous. Your Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, Messi, all these guys. And I think, like, just since he's had that, like, people just, it's so hard to just try and look past that and be like, right, well, he's not got Iniesta, Xavi, and, you know, all these guys. I think it's really difficult for him to try and just, or for people to try and look past that.
So are you saying that, Matthew, then, that obviously it was him that did the coaching, but are you saying he was fortunate to have a group of players that he had at the time?
I mean...
I see that down there.
I see that.
Yeah. So get a wee mention in the pod.
Get the snacks in.
I don't know. That's really, I don't know. I'd probably get pelters for that just because. I don't know. I to answer, I don't know. For me, Guardiola and City right now is one big question mark for me. Like, I have no idea what's going on there. For me, like, I think I said it, they just look stale and, like, I don't know, I can't quite work it out.
What do, like Greg and Scott as well, what do you guys think then? Because you've got a manager who people will still, and at one point, we're comparing him almost to Fergie in the sense that in terms of how he changed. I mean, Pep changed football. Let's be honest about that. He's changed football, and he's also at a club with unlimited resources. And we're sat here saying that something's going wrong. I mean, I know to kind of go off of football, I know he recently lost his mum and stuff in the last year, which is going to have an effect on somebody. But he's like, is he improving? Like, are City to me right now have lost their aura, and I think City are, well, they clearly are, because you look, I know the league's been a bit crazy this season, but City are on a slope on the way down. Do you know what I mean? If you look at them,
I think,
unless you guys disagree.
I mean, that probably happens though, in terms of he's definitely made them better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and then you're obviously going to see like dips in form but like, how long is his new contract? 3 years, 4 years?
Only 2 years. The only 2 years, which got me thinking, why not give him a long one?
Guardiola.
Sorry, Scotty, if you think this guy's going to be the one to dominate.
Yeah, the team doesn't say a lot, does it?
He'll win the league in those 2 years, though.
For sure, but I think we just said that,
Champions League is what he wants.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an achievement, but it's, they brought him in for the Champions League.
Yeah.
I want to say, boys, I want to add in. Do you want to know what I actually think might be happening? And this is maybe quite controversial. You can give me your thoughts. But so if you look at the way how football's constantly evolving, and it kind of seems to be like a style that's kind of hot in teams, and that's what teams all over the world look to try and do in that. When I watch Man City these days, teams are officially happy to say, I'm going to sit in, I'm going to let you knock it about, we're going to sit in a 4-4-2, which I've seen is really common now. I don't know about yous, but I've been watching a lot of football recently, and playing in a 4-4-2 seems to be way more common. Do you not think it's like coming back in fashion slightly? And the reason I think it is because it's perfect to sit like that and hit teams on the counter attack. And I think teams are looking at City, and as football's evolving and this 4-4-2 or whatever you want to call it's coming back in, teams are just looking just to sit and counter against them and counter well. And when you do counter well, you're always going to get chances. You're always going to get goal-scoring opportunities. And I think City are struggling to deal with that.
100%. United, they've got Rashford, pace up front. Leicester have got Vardy. They don't care about having the ball for 90 minutes. They need, 2-3 chances and they can win a game by sitting in.
If you watch certain teams against City, they just sit in and let them have the ball and stay compact. And they must work in it for ages, but they work on just hitting them on the counter-attack. But I also think it's really efficient for them because I think against other teams now are sitting in and trying to just hit teams on the counter. It's not just against City they do this. Counter-attacking is really hot right now. And I think City are struggling with that.
You think Guardiola's too stubborn to change what's made him the best manager?
I was just about to say that, Scotty. I'm going to come to you, Greg, after I said this. So, obviously, when I was at Dianza Force, there was a guy, Albert Puig, that kind of came in for a few years and tried to get the club's philosophy. And he worked at Barca at the time that Pep did. And for me, obviously, growing up, and kind of Pep was the one that made me kind of really want to be a coach watching that Barca team. So growing up, I loved that. And when he came on board, I was kind of like all in. And I kind of went with things, not everything I agreed with. Some things I did, some things I didn't, my own preference of how he wanted to play. But he was very, and I'm not saying that Pep's like this, but I'm trying to like connect the dots. He was very much, if you have a kid on your team that can't do what we do, get him out and recruit somebody else better. So I think if you look at Pep's time at City, it's kind of been like that. Like, buy someone, if it doesn't work, you're out, and we buy someone else to try and fit the style. And like, you have unlimited money. I mean, it's relatively easy to do that when you're Pep Guardiola at City. But so this would come to my point on the coaching. Like, he doesn't really spend time with people. If it's not working in a short amount of space, they're gone. And I just wonder if that stubbornness has maybe led to an interesting dressing room atmosphere. I don't know what you think about that, Greg.
At the end of the day, though, it's always the coach's neck on the chopping block, isn't it? It's his head that goes. So I'm not to say that it's maybe not. It's probably still harsh on these players, but like, if you're not performing to the level that he expects, then it's his job that goes. So I think he's quite within his right to say, well, you're not working, and I'm going to go and. Especially when you say he's got unlimited money.
Do you think that comes from the board saying there's so much pressure to win a Champions League? He's starting to panic. He's not got this time to build a team.
I don't think he's
not got 2-3 years, but
look at like Fergie, for example, at United. Fergie was there for what, like 25 years or however long, I don't know, and he won like 13, 14 league titles. He only won 2 Champions Leagues. Arsene Wenger at Arsenal for God knows how long never won one. It's obviously like a very hard thing to win. So like, although it is what they want, it's not like, if you're giving him, how long has he been there? As you say, 4 years, 2 more years in the contract, make it 6 years. It's not like a given that you're going to win one out of them, 1 Champions League in the 6 years. It could take way longer, but coaches also, or managers also, don't really stay with teams for as long as, like, I don't think you'll ever see someone do like a stint like Fergie again, for example.
Nah.
Fair
I
point.
think sorry, go on, Matthew.
Just to add to it, and just another kind of thought I've had is, I think it is, dressing rooms evolve and clubs evolve. City have gone and lost. City have ultimately lost their spine of their football club in Company, Silva, Aguero. Like,
And even say Yaya Toure.
Oh, sorry, and yeah, I knew I was missing someone. Yaya Toure in there. But so trying to replace that and trying to deal with that, by the way, is so difficult. And I look at that and I think them missing Silva, company touring that around the club, around the dressing room, not even playing. Then they've lost Aguero, which there is a huge issue right now for them. I think that's really not looked at a lot, but I think it's so crucial.
Yeah, 100%. And just to finish off with City, and we'll move on because we could probably spend all night on each team. But I mean, like I said to you earlier, Pep and City have spent 832 million, and I'm not just doing this because I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm just using the team that has recently won the league title as the kind of benchmark, which everybody does. It was City for 2 years when they won it 2 years in a row. They were the benchmark. So what are they doing? Since Klopp's been at Liverpool, he spent 410. I'm not dealing with net spend or anything like that. We're just going off of what they've spent. I mean, he spent half. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. But moving on from City into United, and sticking with that, since Fergie's left Man United this summer, they surpassed £1 billion of spending on players. £1 billion. He retired in 2013. So we're talking 7 years. They've spent over £1 billion. In that time, they've won a Europa League, an FA Cup, and a League Cup. I don't want to talk too much about like that whole time because I really want to focus on the time that kind of Pep came in at City as the benchmark. So we'll just chat about kind of Ollie and Man United. Ollie's been there as caretaker manager. He started since December 2018, so call it just shy of a year. He spent 250. Based on the three things we've said, Matthew, coaching, recruitment, and how they've handled big moments, what do you think about Ollie's time at United so far?
What is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Honestly, what is it? I just don't see it. Like, it's so bizarre to me. I just do not see it whatsoever. And to me, like, especially to manage a club like Man United, you gotta have this aura about you. You gotta have this enthusiasm. You gotta have all that. He just doesn't radiate that whatsoever. And and it's the obvious point. Everyone's gonna question like his experience and like previous clubs and that. Like, he doesn't have a ton of experience at all. Like, was he not awful at Cardiff?
He
got sacked at Cardiff. Yeah.
They got relegated with him.
He's at Mould before then.
Yep.
Like,
Tiny club.
I just don't understand the appointment whatsoever, and I'm not surprised it's gone how it has because I just.
He's also. I'm with you, Matthew, and I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but he's competing with, as you say, Guardiola at City, who's like renowned for being like pretty much the best around. Mourinho now at Spurs, who, let's be honest, if you look at Spurs right now, they just grind out wins. Mourinho just knows how to win. And then Klopp again at Liverpool, who is up there with, obviously again, up there with the best coaches in the world. And then you've got Ole, who it doesn't look like they have any form of like identity about what they're even trying to do. I don't know. If it wasn't for Bruno Fernandes, they'd be, God knows where they'd be this year, because everything goes through him, everything starts with him. 9 times out of 10, everything finishes with him. And he's the only player that does it for them. Even Rashford and that, they're not that great.
I think, I mean, on what you're saying about Bruno Fernandes, Greg, like if we talk about in terms of recruitment, right? I think Solskjaer was one that signed Harry Maguire. I mean, he's been, I think with Maguire, the price tag definitely puts a certain level of expectation on him. And we could have a chat all night long about whether that's right or wrong, price tags for players. But it's not a shocking signing. It's not a bad piece of recruitment. Do you know what I mean? I think he's a really good player. I think is a really, really good centre half. For sure. He's bought him. He's bought Van de Beek, who hasn't really played, which has been kind of weird. But seen him at Ajax last few years, and when he's come on for United, I'll be honest, I think he's been quite decent. But why are they buying him in the first place? They don't need to buy folk for that position.
He changed my United last night.
Then you're just causing issues in the changing room and people are demotivated. And why did they buy him? It was not the time to buy him.
He was good last night, but you see that when he first signed and he didn't play like the first few weeks, he moaned to his agent, got upset. He said, "Oh, I'm unhappy already. I thought I was getting promised full game time." As you say, Matthew, he's pissed off already. That's just not a good signing.
Just not even that. Like, that position does not that position did not need to be like. This is my point. I don't even think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows A, what his best players are, and B, he doesn't even know what formation he wants to play. He has no idea what formation they change every time. It's a diamond. It's a 4-3-3. It's a 4-2-3-1. He doesn't even know. So you surely have to have a system and buy players that suit your system and suit the dressing room. But Van de Beek was just a panic buy that was just because it's United and they want to spend money like all the other clubs are doing. Like, no, it's the complete opposite.
They for me, since Fergie has left, have kind of lost their way a little bit, and I don't think they're quite sure on where to go. And I think what we've just said there, Greg, about Van de Beek and stuff, one good piece of recruitment for sure. One thing they should look at and be like, that was the right decision, without a doubt, is Bruno Fernandes. I mean, he's fucking class. I mean, the reason.
And at the time, they needed someone. Like they needed someone like that.
That was a perfect. That was a 10 out of 10 piece of recruiting there from Solskjaer Man United. 100%. That's the best bit of business they've done since Fergie's left.
Yeah.
Hands down. So I think they need to start looking at that. And like you said, Matthew, I don't know whether it's Solskjaer or it's the board. I feel like it flips and flops back and forth, which also doesn't say a lot of good things about the club. But I don't really want to go into the club. I just want to stick on Ole. Yeah. So in terms of coaching, Scotty, if you look at United and coaching, we mentioned Pep. Has he really improved Man City from a coaching point of view? Yes, probably has in terms of how he's coached them. Do you think Ole's improving Man United with his coaching?
Absolutely not. No. But he does have games where they look unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But then for me, that comes from Bruno. And if he finds Rashford on a good day, United are unstoppable. But then the very next game, they're back to absolutely terrible, which for me shows coaching's been non-existent, or the players don't know the philosophy, or they're not buying into it because their performances dip so much. They fluctuate too much for a proper team.
Do you know, I'd be interested to see what you guys think about this. I just kind of thought of this. But do you know what I think it might be from the outside looking in? This is just my own thoughts, is that he is an unexperienced manager who has not been proven at that level. And by the way, another thing I put down on this is a lot of people that support United have sent me this, and I've seen it on Twitter. I'm pretty sure Solskjaer's 100 games in charge of Man United's record is better than Klopp's at Liverpool.
It is,
right?
About like a game.
And whatever it may be. And people send me that, and I'm like, but Klopp was at Dortmund before and had won trophies and had won leagues, beating Pep Guardiola, right, to a Bundesliga and got Dortmund to a Champions League final, who at the time, no one would have thought that was going to be possible. So he has a bit of proof that he can bring this. Like we've said, Solskjaer got sacked from Cardiff and was at Mould. And I'm not having a go at him, but I think what you're seeing is a coach that is inexperienced, maybe not good enough. And I think the reason they're inconsistent is I think he's constantly trying to change and find out what works for him. And he doesn't fully know his way of doing things yet.
Yeah, and in terms of a coach with a big moment, he is not the man. How many times have we watched United this season and they're getting beat and he's on the sideline, nervous, laughing to himself. He is not the big man for the big occasion to control that dressing room as well.
Josh, what was the stat that you said about Solskjaer and Klopp?
So Solskjaer has a better record in his first 100 games as manager than Klopp did at Liverpool.
Yeah, but is that not quite subjective, because we had fucking Jay Spearing playing centre midfield and they've got 100 million Paul Pogba playing midfield?
Yeah, I mean, the squad that he's had was considerably better than the one that Jurgen Klopp took over.
Yeah, the squad's definitely 100% better, but I look at, like I said before, the way I look at managers and coaches is, are they getting the best out of their players? I'll use an example. Mourinho is absolutely killing it with Kane right now, right? He has rejuvenated Harry Kane, and that's what I think good managers do. It's all about man management and knowing people and trying to get the best out of them. And every single player apart from Bruno Fernandes is underperforming. Rashford, Martial, Shaw, Maguire, De Gea, they're all massively struggling. Now, see if it was just see if they were doing all right and there's one or two players that were struggling that. You kind of look at it and you're like, well, all right, maybe there's something up there with them or whatever. But when it's the whole team are massively underperforming, I think the manager needs to get looked at, because that's their job. Their job is to get the best out of everyone.
The players you just listed off there, Matthew, that's a brilliant squad. That's a squad capable of winning a lot of points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
You think so?
Yeah, you think so. You mentioned Mourinho, Matthew, which I think is a good point to move on to Spurs. And what he's doing. Excuse me. Since he's been at Spurs in about a year, he spent 136 million. I mean, he's only been there a year. But again, when we talk about recruitment, he's made one signing. He's made his Højbjerg. I think perfectly suits Mourinho. He's quite nasty in the middle of the park. He gets stuck in. He likes a bit of a battle. That is Jose Mourinho. That's one sign, and that Bergwijn has come in and has been decent since he signed. I mean, you'd say he's probably been a relatively decent hit to start with. Ndombele, maybe not, but now you would say he's starting to like get himself consistently in there. Lo Celso, Mourinho brought in on loan and then bought. I think he's done a good job at Spurs. So I look at that, and for the first time since he probably started at Real Madrid, I look at Mourinho now as a manager at Spurs, and I think, you might have a little something there.
Can I just add, it's just another thought I've had, and one of my opinions is, just to try and quickly link the Spurs, United, and Solskjaer Mourinho thing, is if you look at, I think another top quality you need to be a top manager is, I think you need to be ruthless. You look at Guardiola, how ruthless was he with Joe Hart when he came in? Do you all remember that?
Yeah.
And then I think he was absolutely ruthless with Bravo as well. You then look at Mourinho. I think Mourinho deserves massive praise for the whole Dele Alli situation, because it's now gone completely off the radar, by the way. No one's talking about it, and now Spurs are flying. I've always said I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of Dele Alli, and I think Mourinho being absolutely ruthless with that is amazing. I think you need to be a top manager to do that. And then if you look at Solskjaer with the whole Pogba situation, Solskjaer's not ruthless enough, is he?
It's taken him so many games to drop him, hasn't it?
He's not got that ruthlessness about him. So sorry, just to link the 2 points.
No, that's fair.
But that's a great point. Like Mourinho, he's improved that squad by taking one of the fan favourites and a potential England star in Dele Alli, seen right through him, got him out of the squad, and they're playing so much better because of it. But how many managers had the balls to do that?
You need to be ruthless. You need to be. It's a rough game, man. It's rough.
To be fair with that, though, is the advantage that Mourinho had over Solskjaer is that Harry Kane was already there, and let's be honest, the guy's absolute class. Everything goes through him. We were talking about this the other day when we were walking. If Harry Kane gets injured, are Spurs joint top of the league? Yeah.
Joint top.
If Harry Kane gets injured, say from now until mid-January, Spurs will not be near the top of the league.
No, I agree, Greg, and this is kind of why I wanted to have this discussion, because this is kind of the bigger point I'm trying to get at for everyone listens to this is, I don't think it's media, the media and the journalists right now, of course it's going to happen. Spurs are top, so everyone's like, Spurs could do it, they've got Mourinho. And if everything goes well for them, and like you just said, there are no injuries, with Mourinho and he gets that momentum going and that mentality, which I think he's starting to get Spurs, there's a chance. I personally don't think they can last this season without the injuries. But the bigger point in this is that you can see that if Mourinho recruits well in the next kind of, maybe not January because that's a tough one, but in summer, and he keeps that mentality going from now until the end of the season, even if they drop off a little bit if Kane gets out of that, you would look at that and go, Spurs all of a sudden now look like they're in a decent spot, Mourinho.
Yeah.
He's changed the cut. You can see that he's bringing that kind of old school Mourinho back where he has it. We've all seen it.
I would like to say that so many things fall into place, and like if you look at kind of not the level right now, or maybe it's a good way to put it, the standard. Liverpool are really struggling with injuries and that, right? It's clear, like really struggling. Chelsea are clearly, bought all these players and they're trying to build. Who else? City and Guardiola are kind of at a stalemate, right? But sometimes you need that little bit of a luck. You need that little bit of luck to try and, to try and go on and win a league because other teams aren't doing so good. Like you look at Leicester, right? That year where everyone just kind of done crap and everyone started rebuilding. I wouldn't be surprised this year, by the way, if like someone like Tottenham or that do end up winning it, just because with the whole COVID and no fans and not a long pre-season. I think it's a really good opportunity for them. And Mourinho.
I would agree with that. It's kind of like not like a filler season is probably not the right word, but like just one of those seasons that I think already like Liverpool get an absolute horsed off Aston Villa, for example. Like things like that just don't normally happen in like any given season, and this season's definitely going to be different. It is going to be someone absolutely random that wins the league.
I think Mourinho has that. Mourinho has that kind of. Everyone always talks about that second season thing, where the second season he just seems to like push this team to the next level. He did it with Man United. He said that finishing with Man United, second with Man United, is his greatest achievement ever. And I mean, we just talked about how much Man United have spent. To talk about where they're at right now with Solskjaer compared to Spurs with Mourinho. I mean, turns out that probably was a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I actually really liked the way that Mourinho came across on that Amazon documentary as well. Like it was nothing like I expected, and he was probably maybe, I mean, I'm speculating, but maybe playing to the camera a wee bit in terms of being a wee bit of a nicer guy. I think he's probably more back to what you say, Matthew, about being ruthless, but he is probably more ruthless in what he came across on that. But like, I think in terms of man management, I think Mourinho's probably up there with the best. I think he's almost like, did he not say it like Michael Essien back in the day was like the son that he's never had or something like that? Like, he just like treated Michael Essien so well, and obviously like Essien was at Chelsea with him, Real Madrid with him, and like went through different clubs with him. And I think that's one thing that Mourinho definitely brings to the table, which like I again couldn't see Ole doing in terms of like befriending players and like taking them under your wing type of thing.
With Harry Kane, he's taken their best player and made him even better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make a strength stronger, you're going to get.
What a new role he's got, by the way.
Yeah. Point every position.
That's class, mate. Yeah, he's class. He could rejuvenate that position, by the way. Like something like that, I think that's what makes football evolve in that. And I reckon you'll see folk dropping in, like strikers dropping in all the time now and doing that. I was gonna say something. Imagine
Harry Kane at Liverpool.
Oh my days!
So I'm just a little bit conscious on time, Matthew. I know you've got a wee call and that, so just want to make sure we give a decent amount of time on all the teams, but kind of not jump over it too quickly.
Sorry, Josh, I remembered my point. Sorry, just real quick. Sorry, last thing. I don't know about yous. I'm fascinated. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Tottenham at the start of the season?
Well, they got beat 1-0 off Everton.
How bad were they watching them?
Yeah,
they were.
I remember watching them and thinking, "Holy shit! Like they're gonna get relegated. They were that bad. They were so passive. Teams were absolute like dicking them on possession. Like so many things. By the way, I am fascinated to what Mourinho has done to make the same players. By the way, bar Dele Alli, to make the same players now absolute fly. Like I am fascinated to what he's done there.
Agreed. I think they could be on a bit of a good path to Mourinho. He might have found his own spark back a little bit there. Before we move on from Spurs,
Mourinho, kick on, son.
Mourinho deserves it after his dog died in that documentary, by the way. That's the saddest thing I've seen.
That is true, mate. That was a shame.
Before we move on, last thing about Mourinho, get him off social media. That's like Mo Da having social media. Happen. Get him off.
Jose, mate, come on. We don't want to see
Jose posted in Gala
managers on there, mate. Before we move on to Chelsea, I just want to give Rob Larson a wee shout out. I promised him I'd give him a shout out on the podcast.
Go on, you guys!
Come on, you Spurs!
Paid me a $5, so if anyone wants to shout out on a podcast, just send one of us some money and you get it. So let's move on to Frank Lampard at Chelsea. He's obviously only had one transfer window, which was this summer because of Chelsea's ban, and he spent 221 million, so a decent amount, which in my opinion is a state of intent from Chelsea that they knew they were a bit off and they needed to get there, and they have the money that they can spend to do so. For me personally, I was wondering how Lampard is, and kind of compares to Ole as well. Lampard, how he was going to do with being inexperienced, buying these players, having the pressure of having the money that he spent on players, and then trying to work out how the fuck to fit all the people in that he's bought. And it didn't look too great to start with, but it looks like it's settled down a little bit and is actually not working out too bad for them?
I think to start with, he didn't. I think a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, it's new players who got to settle in," and that. I don't think it is that. I think he had the balance of his starting 11 wrong the most of the time. He didn't have. I think he was playing like Mason Mount, like wide right to start with. There wasn't any pace there. I forgot who was on the left. Didn't have much pace either, right? Let's be honest. Tammy Abraham coming to play as a striker has rejuvenated Chelsea. A lot of folk aren't talking about it.
Sorry, sorry, Matthew. Just before you carry on there, just before I forget this question on what you just said, is not knowing his system and then kind of finding the balance and trying things and working out what's worked. Everything we just talked about in terms of coaching, I mean, that to me shows that Lampard's got a little something about him because he's recognised that and it's started to work.
Yeah,
there he goes.
I think. I definitely think that. I look at it like. I think Frank's gonna go with a back four now. You see him sometimes switching with the back four and a back three. I think he's set on his back four, and I think Tammy Abraham is totally rejuvenated Chelsea. And I think Werner going to the left has helped him massively. He seemed to be struggling down the middle, didn't he? But since he's gone to the left, and it's not like he plays wide left and hugs a touchline like that. He looks way comfortable, like playing in the channel, playing in between the centre half and the right back. He's really comfortable there. And Ziyech on the right, what a player, by the way. I think that little balance he's got there is good. So I think Frank has finally found the balance in that kind of formation in that starting 11 that he likes.
What speaking about all that, Greg, what do you think about his recruitment? Like the players he's bought, you know, regardless of the price tags, Werner, Ziyech, Thiago Silva for free, the keeper. I mean, they've actually, we talked about Fernandes being a good bit of recruitment for United and what they needed, Matthew said. I feel like now that he's worked out, they've kind of been what Chelsea's needed. It's taken them definitely to a bit of the next level.
I would agree. I think as Matthew said, Ziyech's definitely probably, like, was he injured at the start? Was he injured?
Yeah.
So like he's definitely made a
player,
difference.
Man.
He's definitely made a difference. Let's be honest, the keeper, he had to go and get another keeper. Kepa is just what, like, exactly.
He's been ruthless, hasn't he?
He's been ruthless.
Yeah, people being ruthless again. Like
ruthless, mate.
Like just not good enough. Out you go. Had to get a new keeper. To be fair, I quite like the Thiago Silva signing, just in terms of, like, they've got a lot of youngsters at Chelsea. Mm-hmm. You get him in from PSG for maybe even just a year. Just get that experience about, like, a back line that is quite young. Saying that, they've obviously got Azpilicueta, who's not young, but obviously a good footballer. Timo Werner as well, like, to be fair, he's very, very good, but he misses a fair amount of chances at the moment, which might be.
He's gonna start scoring goals. I bet you he's gonna start scoring goals.
Yeah, I'm in the fantasy team, Matthew.
Just took him out for Calvert. You're joking, Matthew.
His fantasy team.
Mate, I'm telling you, mark my words. We'll come back to this podcast. He's gonna start scoring a shit ton of goals. He already is, to be fair. I mean, he's up there, is he not?
I'm not. He might be, but he misses a fair few chances as well, like decent chances. But the one thing I would say, again, going back to it, is maybe in a few years, but right now, and obviously there's a transition period, but I can't see Chelsea winning anything. I think Tottenham have a way better chance of winning the league than Chelsea do.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Very interesting.
What bold statements tonight, boys.
I like it. Spicing things up a little bit. What you said, Greg, though, is again, when we talk about recruitment, is Thiago Silva's a clever buy because it was for free. You've already brought in a load of other players for a lot of money. You've got them in for free. Of course, it's not long term, but short term, it should help improve the other centre backs that they have, or they're hoping it's going to help improve the other centre backs that they have. It's a smart bit of recruitment, and like you said, Matthew, ruthless with the goalkeeper. Everyone could see he was not good enough. I actually felt sorry for him towards the end because it was just awkward, and was ruthless and brought in another goalkeeper that so far is looking like he's all right. he's an improvement on them. So his recruitment so far and his willingness to adapt, like we said at the start, I think shows that there's potential for something in Chelsea over the next few years. Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, there's definitely something happening there. And I think if, like Greg said, he thinks Tottenham are going to finish above Chelsea, I don't know if that's a really tough one, but I look at it and I'm like, I maybe think Mourinho's experience might get him over the line over Lamps. I think, but then I think about it and I'm like, I think this season, because of everything that's happening, I think your squad depth is going to be super, super important this season. And I look at it and I'm like, Chelsea definitely have that. So I'm going to go ahead and say injuries are going to play a massive part in this. And I think Chelsea will actually finish above Tottenham because of their squad depth.
That's a fair. They play this weekend, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, what a game that'll be, by the way.
Definitely get that one.
Matthew, I'll put a fiver on it with you. I'll take Tottenham.
Fancy we wager, boys.
Go on then.
Oh, fiver. You heard it here, folks, on Cannon Conversations. Fiver bet, Matthew.
We are
Give another shout out to Rob Larson while we're here.
Shout out to Rob Larson. So we'll finish off on the English side of things just quickly because I think this person, which is Arteta at Arsenal, is at the earliest stage of all of these, and actually I think has the most difficult job to do out of all of these. But when he first came in, I've said it to you guys, I've said it to a lot of other people, I feel like he's got something. He's worked under Pep Guardiola, the way he talks about his players and the way he talks about football, there's something definitely there. I think that they've kind of come back down to normal since his kind of employment, and I think you're starting to see their actual natural level. I think they need to invest. Just on that note about investing, before you guys say what you think, he's been there roughly a year, maybe less. They just joined at the.
He had a full summer, I think.
Yeah, roughly a year or so, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's only spent 75 million, so he's not really invested a lot. He's brand new to being a first team, a manager, a first team coach. But I think they've got a little something there. I think that we talk about recruitment. I think the Thomas Partey signing is great. I think that's improved them massively. I think you look at that and I go, he knows what he wants. They know what they're doing. He knows what they need there. And I think that if he continues to make those decisions, Arsenal are going to be ones to watch, I think, in a little bit longer period of time than the others. But keep an eye on Arsenal, I think, for the next kind of 2 to 3 years.
He needs exactly as you say. He needs to get rid of. Arsenal just have this, like when Klopp first came to Liverpool. It takes time to almost like get rid of the crap. Pretty much is what I can't think of a better way of saying it, but like
non-championship two champion players.
Yeah, Arsenal still maybe just have. And Mikel Arteta, you can tell, is trying to build like an identity there and play a way that they've obviously improved. They're way better now than what they were probably this time last year. But they still just pick up shitty results against teams that they should beat hands down quite comfortably. And like until he gets maybe 18 months, even more, or maybe 2 years more until he can get rid of that crap and go through a couple of transfer windows. The problem for Arsenal is they've never been really big spenders. And I think he does just need a wee bit longer just to get rid of the riffraff.
Yeah, I would agree. Has anyone got anything else they want to add on Arsenal before we finish off with the mighty Glasgow Rangers?
I like Kieran Tierney. I think he's good.
Right, I like Tierney as well.
I've not got my mind made up on Arteta and Arsenal. I've not got my mind made up on him. I don't know. Need a little more time on that.
Fair. That's all fair. So, Scotty, we'll finish off with kind of you as the main man here on the knowledge. Greg, you as well know more than me and Matthew about the Scottish game. We've been in and out of it. Well, we have, Matthew. We've been out of it consistently for a number of years and only seen it properly and been around in Scotland at Christmas times and stuff. So I think Scotty's definitely got the best kind of insight to it, especially into Rangers. But Scotty, before we start, Gerrard took over in 2018-19 and again, completely different leagues. He has spent 30 million compared to in that time since Gerrard joined Rangers, Celtic has spent 53 million. So I mean, what are your thoughts on both the clubs in terms of the things we said, the coaching, the recruitment, and how they've kind of changed the clubs?
Well, I've taken more notes for this podcast than I did my whole high school.
Love it.
Stevie G, what a man.
Dedication.
I think what you're seeing in year 3 of Stevie G, like what we're talking about Arsenal, he's weeded out all the shit players. He's figured out who's not a champion, who's not a winner. He's brought in players that can win leagues, that know his philosophy, will play his philosophy. And I think he's finally got a full squad, not just a starting 11, a full squad that's capable of winning a league and will win a league.
Yeah, you said that. We talked about this. McCoy said on the commentary when Rangers made the subs and they're 4-0 up on Aberdeen that the subs he's making doesn't drop the level of the team.
This is the first year of me being a Rangers fan. No matter what team sheet comes out on a Thursday night or Sunday afternoon, I think we'll win. I genuinely think we'll win. And it doesn't matter if he's made 1 sub, 2 sub, 3 subs. Every player that comes in, I think, can play at the highest level for Rangers.
I think Matthew and Greg, you can jump in on this as well. I can only go off of what I know really, really well, and that's the team I support is Liverpool. So I look at Rangers, and from the outside looking in, I see a lot of similarities in when Klopp was at Liverpool in his early days, with what the people that supported other teams said, and what kind of you feel as a Rangers fan, because I always felt with Klopp that there was no guarantees, but Matthew and Greg, you can jump in. I always felt like there was a feeling of, there's something happening here. And so a lot of people on the outside were like, well, you haven't won anything yet, so there can't be, which is acceptable. I think Stevie G, same thing. He needs to win a league title before you can definitely say it. But I see a lot of similarities, Matthew and Greg, from the outside looking in to how Rangers fans feel about Rangers right now and towards how Liverpool fans felt about Klopp around about the same time.
I would agree. I would say there's hope now at Rangers, and like the same with Liverpool. Like Liverpool had gone through a long time of, let's be honest, like Rodgers was obviously good, but Rodgers was good because of Suarez. At the end of the day, like Suarez just about single-handedly carried us to a league title. So maybe take him out of the equation, but like it was like Roy Hodgson, Kenny Dalglish, who like fair enough, like have been around for a long time, but you were never really competing. Where Rangers were similar, with like, I know Ali McCoy was obviously there and went through to the Division 3 with them, and then like they got Warburton in for a championship, and then Pedro in, and there was just never. They were all right under Warburton, to be fair, but again, it was championship football. And then I think Stevie G's brought like hope, and you can actually see every week when you watch them that they are improving under him. And I think Rangers fans will, like, if you were to talk to Rangers fans, even as soon as they appointed Steven Gerrard, because it's a big name, I remember Rangers fans on Twitter and stuff like that, they're so optimistic about what he can bring. And I think that optimism's now gone through the club, and it's now paying dividends in terms of, let's be honest, they're playing the best football in Scotland by a mile. Weakened Aberdeen side at the weekend, but Rangers battered them. They pretty much batter everyone they play. They don't concede many goals, and if they keep that up, there's absolutely no doubt that they'll be going for 1 in a row.
Here we go. I'm going to tick off 2 points from your earlier things about a manager. So Mark Warburton signed 2 players that I've noted here when I did my hours of research this morning.
Well done, mate.
He signed Joey Barton and James Tavernier in the same transfer window, right? And the way I've highlighted that for a reason, he signed Joey Barton. Could you ever see someone like Steven Gerrard signing a player like Joey Barton with the attitude he brings, the history he brings? He's not going to win you a league, Joey Barton. But then Warburton signed James Tavernier, who for 3 years he was decent, but he had so many weaknesses, so many liabilities. Under Gerrard, he's become the best right back in Scotland, and he's absolutely fine. He's turned him into a captain, turned him into a leader, and he's turned him into a winner. And also Kukshina, he signed Ryan Jack and Morelos, and he's turned, Matthew, you said it tonight, he's turned into one of those players that you don't see him on the pitch, but he does everything Rangers need. Wins the ball back. He's turned him into a winner. He's turned Tavernier and Ryan Jack into 2 potential winners. They will win the league with those 2 players.
This is my whole point. This is my whole point about, like, to me, what a great manager is getting the best out of everyone. Gerrard's made Jack an absolute.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
class
has.
player. And he made these guys absolute class player. Like that to me is what like a good manager does. Like Klopp's made Wijnaldum, Henderson, Robertson. Oh, you could literally name so many players. He's made them absolutely class. It's because he's getting the best of them. And I think
100%.
that sometimes is overlooked massively. And to me, that's what Gerrard does. I'll actually tell you a quick story. So I was on a call today with someone, and they're from Glasgow and massive Rangers fan, and they were saying they know someone that works at Rangers, and he was speaking to them, and he was saying that he's around the players in that a lot, and he was saying that he has never seen the players so focused and so ready in their life. And he's worked at the club for like 30, 40 plus years. He's like, the whole time I've been at Rangers, he's like, I've never felt anything like this before. So there's some little insight for you there, Scotty. That's what Gerrard's doing. Gerrard's installed
I love the guy.
winners, and he's installed this mentality, and he's class.
The word is, by the way, instilled, Matthew, not installed. Installed is when you download COD.
Also, Matthew, give the
Say COD.
Hey, coach.
also Matthew, give the people some more insight. Have you been on the phone to anyone else today?
A wee Gallon legend who also loves the football. And back to Gerrard. The list of players he's got rid of, absolute nobodies, absolute diddies. It's honestly, the list is a disgrace that he ever put on a Rangers strip. And the people he's brought in can't say it. Absolute. He's brought in Jermaine Defoe.
Yeah.
I mean, Jermaine Defoe's not. That goes down to how big a name Gerrard is, because Jermaine Defoe's not coming to Rangers to play for any other man apart from Steven Gerrard. But he's just brought in people with mentality. Stephen Davis, Alan McGregor, guys with a mentality that know what it is to be a Rangers player. And he's, as you say, he's changed them on the pitch. Yeah, he's made them better players, but he's instilled a belief into that team that they never had before.
And by the way, how many of them are free?
Yeah,
Scott
Arfield, free. Alan McGregor, free. Jermaine Defoe, free. Leon Balogun, free. Stephen Davis, free. Calvin Bassey, free. I think Steve G pays on himself. I don't know.
Gerrard getting loads of deals from his pals and that.
Is that fucking Jeff Stelling over there or something?
Oh, Jeff Stelling. But no, you're spot on, Scotty. And the other thing that we talked about that I've noticed in Steven Gerrard too is one of the other things I said is how managers handle big moments. And you saw in his early days, winning against Celtic. Even I think it was last season where he kissed the camera. Under the camera, like you love to see that as a fan, and that's great. And Jurgen Klopp definitely does that. He gets emotional, but you could see that just kind of tipped Rangers not really the right way. He went a bit too far with that. But if you listen to him on that High Performance podcast, he alludes to he's quite an emotional person, and he's definitely trying to get better at that. And I think that if you flip that right now and you look at Celtic. And I think Ben said on the message today, realistically, what if they win their 2 games in hand, they're only 5 points behind? Yeah. Is that right? I mean, they're massively still in it, but because it's 10 in a row, like the pressure is just times 10. And Lennon looks like he's struggling with it a bit. Lennon looks like he's cracking.
He's struggling with everything.
Lennon looks like he's cracking. There's constant rumours of him getting sacked.
Exactly as we were saying, though, it does look like Lennon's struggling, and the pressure of that job is so high, especially this year. But you'd have to be a madman to take over that job.
I think Lennon especially struggling because he's a die-hard Celtic man, and the pressure's getting to him even more so because of that. As you say, like Gerrard was too emotionally attached. I think Lennon could be the same way.
Do you think they should sack him?
Nah, I don't.
I don't. 5 points, and there's still 3 Old Firm games to go.
Yeah, I know. I know. I think with a season like this, like Greg just said, no one's really going to want to take that over. I think you've got to stick with him. I think if you sack him, the league's done.
Yeah.
I think if you sack him, the league's done. Personally.
If you do, who replaces him?
I read today Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah,
what? Honestly, what a shout, man.
I think he's the favourite.
Scotty, sorry, what you were saying about Gerrard with all the Rangers players and free, one of the things I had written down was, there's not as much money in Scottish football, so you kind of almost have to think different, which kind of brings it back to the Moneyball side of things. Is like, I think different, and Gerrard, his job is he has a lot of money in terms of Scotland, don't get me wrong, but he's still got to be clever with it. And you're dealing with trying to get players in, to Scotland, which right now is not deemed at an extremely high level. So, again, you've got to be good at recruiting. You've got to get the right people in. You've got to be clever with your deals. All those players for free is an incredible piece of dealing. I mean, you have to say he's not won anything yet, and he still might not. But if you look at Gerrard overall, he's ticking all the boxes to be like, yeah, you could easily see that if they lift the trophy, you could look back and go, look at all the things that led to it.
But taking my blue glasses off, even if Gerrard doesn't win this league, it'll obviously be an absolute shambles if he doesn't. But what the difference in 3 years is unbelievable. If people can't see that, then they're thick as shit.
Yeah.
What he has done for that, he's totally changed that team.
We talked about, just kind of to finish up, we talked about, having Matthew said about Solskjaer not having an aura. I said I feel like City have lost their aura when they play teams. And to use the example tonight, City were playing before we came onto this, and you even changed the channel, Matthew. I mean, if that was City a year or two ago, you'd be glued to the TV watching them because of how they were and how they played. Even as a Liverpool fan, I wanted to watch Man City every time they're on TV. And right now, they just don't have that to them. And to say that to Rangers, being back in the country now and wanting to get into it, and I know they're typically one of the teams that are always on TV, but I'm actually quite excited to watch Rangers play a little bit because I enjoy how they play. The mentality looks good. There's something to play for, obviously, with Celtic going for 10 in a row. You can tell Rangers, Gerrard's created that aura at the club.
One thing I'll say on that about Gerrard, the type of guy he is, me and Greg saw it when we went to Ibrox. After every game, Gerrard stays on the sidelines, shakes hands with every player on his team and on the opposite team. And just little things like that, he's just changing the mentality of the players, which in Scottish football you've never seen before. He's just a class guy.
Agreed. I couldn't agree anymore.
You're a Rangers fan.
Mate, getting a fan's perspective, the inside
You're a Rangers hat off, son.
I think to close out finally, one thing I circled on here, which is something that we all kind of mentioned about one of the clubs we've talked about, and we haven't talked about tactics and all that tonight. But even more important, I think a big thing what you have to look at is what culture, what mentality does the manager bring to the club, right? Arteta's definitely, we've said, looked like he's going to be doing something there. Lampard looks like he could be doing something there. I feel like Chelsea were always the team where the kind of players ran the show after Mourinho's left, and I think they've moved on from that now, and Lampard looks like he's kind of really in charge. He's creating a culture there. Mourinho's creating a culture at Spurs. We said we're not too sure what's going on with United and Ollie. I mean, I think we could all say we don't know what he's trying to create there. We've said that, right? And then you look at Pep and City. City's a weird club just because of they don't have as much history as a lot of other clubs. And I think as well with City, when you look at it, it's great how they did it, but when someone does it with the unlimited resources, like kind of PSG, it's kind of like, well done, guys. Like, good job. I mean, you have the most money, so it should be. But I think culture and mentality is probably the biggest thing that a manager needs to bring. And I think some of those have it and some of those don't, who we've talked about tonight. Does anyone have anything else they want to add before we finish up?
Don't think so. I think you've summed it up well.
We've covered it.
What's that? What's the Liverpool team?
Have you seen it? You want to hear it real quick?
Yeah, go on.
Listen to this back four. Nico Williams, that Rise Williams, Matip, and then left back that, how do you say it?
Like Tsimikas.
Yeah.
Tsimikas, whatever his name is. A midfield three, zero creativity. James Milner, Gini Wijnaldum and Curtis Jones. And then a front three of Mohamed Salah. Thank God he's back. No got the COVID. Divock Origi and Sadio Mane. So that's bold.
Wow. I love it. Hey, you said a midfield and no creativity, and we talked about mentality. I bet the Reds go on to win.
Yeah, I was about to say, play with a back seven and then get the ball to Mane and Salah.
Get the ball to Mane and Salah. Right, we'll finish up there, boys, because Matthew, I know you've got a call to go to in about 3 minutes, so
yeah,
we'll finish up. Another good one. Man. Another good one.
Hey, work never ends, young man.
Cheers, guys.
Another good one. Cheers.
Pleasure as always.
Cheers.